Today we're checking out a brand new planeswalker coming out of Tarkir Dragonstorm, Ugin, Eye of the Storms. Let's talk about how good he might be and what signature spells might pair best with him. For 7 mana, he starts at 7 loyalty. When you cast this spell, exile up to 1 target permanent that's 1 or more colors. Whenever you cast a colorless spell, exile up to 1 target permanent that's 1 or more colors. +2, you gain 3 life and draw a card. 0, add colorless, colorless, colorless. -11, search your library for any number of colorless non-land cards, exile them, then shuffle. Until end of turn, you may cast those cards without paying their mana costs. This seems so good. This seems so good. Granted, it is 7 mana, and you're not always even going to get there. But if you can, this thing is such a powerhouse. I don't see how you don't just dominate the game after that. All right, I just reread it, and I didn't even realize that first ability there, that is a cast trigger, so it's not even an enter the battlefield thing. Even if they counter Ugin, you're still getting to blow up something. And that something can include an opponent's planeswalker. Same with that second ability, and I think that second ability is the real power of the card. If you can blow something up on each of your turns, a couple things, hopefully, I don't see how you don't win. The +2 will help keep you alive while everybody attacks you with everything they've got trying to take you out. And also draws you cards so you can cast more stuff and get more triggers. The 0 also helps you cast stuff to get more triggers. And the -11, on first read, I thought, well, how are you not going to win if you hit that -11? But it's even better than it looks because that is cast triggers too. So that triggers that second ability a whole bunch and leaves them with pretty much nothing unless they have a colorless commander too. Okay, let's talk signature spells. Usually for a colorless deck, the #1 choice is All Is Dust, a 7-mana sorcery. Each player sacrifices all permanents they control that are 1 or more colors. All Is Dust is the signature spell for over 40% of colorless decks. However, I don't think this is actually the best choice for this deck. I mean, maybe it is because it's still super powerful, but Ugin is already doing some of that. So if we aren't picking All Is Dust, I think there's really 2 directions we can go. Because Ugin makes 3 colorless, we could do that the turn he comes down to cast our signature spell right away if it's a low mana signature spell. That will trigger Ugin's ability right away, and we can exile another thing. There aren't many options in the 1 to 3 mana range, so I'm just going to go through them all. These first 3 are really not that great. I probably wouldn't pick any of them, but they would work. Kozilek's Command can be cast for 3 mana with an X of 1. Choose 2. Target player creates X01 colorless Eldrazi spawn creature tokens with sacrifice this creature, add colorless. Target player scries X, then draws a card. Exile target creature with mana value X or less. Exile up to X target cards from graveyards. At 3 mana, it's not very powerful, but it's got some versatility, and you could cast it for more in a subsequent turn. Spatial Contortion gives target creature +3/-3 till end of turn. So we could pick off something small with this and then use the triggered ability to get something bigger. I really like that. This would be a contender for me if I was building the deck. There's one I like more that I'm going to show you soon, but I really do like this one. Titan's Presence. As an additional cost to cast the spell, reveal a colorless creature card from your hand. Exile target creature if its power is less than or equal to the revealed card's power. This does rely a bit on what you got in hand, but yeah, this could be really good. Warping Whale. Choose 1. Exile target creature with power or toughness 1 or less. Counter target sorcery spell. Create a 1/1 colorless Eldrazi Scion creature token. It has sacrifice this creature, add colorless. So I really do like this spell in a lot of colorless decks because sometimes you can counter a signature spell with it. But Ugin's triple colorless mana goes away at the end of your turn, so you wouldn't really be able to do that if that's your goal. Now we've got the 2 I'm most excited for. At first I thought I was going to say Eldritch Immunity was my favorite, but I'm having some second thoughts now. Anyway, for just 1 mana, target creature you control gains protection from each color until end of turn, and you could overload it for 5. What I like about this is the mana cost. Just 1 mana, we can use Ugin's mana to cast this the turn Ugin comes down and still have 2 left over for something else and hopefully get a second trigger that turn. Although as a spell itself, it's really not very useful. I imagine most Ugin players are not going to be spending much time attacking. The power of Ugin comes from repeatedly wiping stuff out and leaving the board empty, on your opponent's side at least, and then attacking. So maybe actually this is a terrible choice as signature spell, I don't know. So I guess I'll change my favorite to Null Elemental Blast, an instant for 1 mana. Choose 1, counter target multicolor spell or destroy target multicolor permanent. Really doubling down on messing up your opponent's board. The downside to this is sometimes you won't have a target for it. I think most of the time, the good majority of the time, you will, but there will be times you don't, and there'll be entire games where you might not even be playing against a multicolored deck, in which case it does nothing. Okay, let's look at a few higher mana options now. Desecrate Reality is an instant for 7. For each opponent, exile up to one target permanent that player controls with an even mana value. Adamant, if at least 3 colorless mana was spent to cast the spell, return a permanent card with an odd mana value from your graveyard to the battlefield. If you were really greedy, you could try Rise of the Eldrazi. It's 12 mana. This spell can't be countered. Destroy target permanent. Target player draws 4 cards. Take an extra turn after this one. I mean, Ugin does help you make mana, but I still think it's a little far-fetched to get there. Eldrazi Confluence is worth a consideration for its versatility. For 4 mana, it's an instant, choose 3. You may choose the same mode more than once. Target creature gets +3/-3 till end of turn. Exile target non-land permanent, then return it to the battlefield tapped under its owner's control. Create a 1/1 colorless Eldrazi Scion creature token with sack this creature, add colorless. So the first ability there, you could just choose that 3 times to wipe out 3 little creatures and also get that cast trigger. And the second ability is surprisingly good too. You can save Ugin with this, you can blink him. Or you could blink an opponent's planeswalker if they were getting close to their ultimate and you wanted to reset them. I don't know if this is the best signature spell, but it definitely ought to be in the deck. Okay, now I want to mention Ugin's big problem, and no, it's not the 7 mana cost, because I think if we're building him, we could pack the deck full of mana rocks to try to get him out by like turn 5 or something. I think that'd be hard, but I think it's doable. The problem is the target he puts on your head. From turn 1, your opponents can see how powerful this guy is going to be, and if they got brains, they're going to take you out first. Currently, the most popular colorless planeswalker is Ugin the Ineffable, and while this guy, as printed, is more powerful than Ugin the Ineffable, the other one doesn't put the same kind of target on your head. In fact, he's usually kind of overlooked. I mean, maybe not by players who are familiar with the card, because he generates a ton of value with his cost reduction. Anyway, this new Ugin is the 8th colorless planeswalker we've gotten. For power level, I think I'd put him below Ugin and the new Aetherspark card, mostly because they're lower mana, but I think Ugin is much more powerful than any of the other ones. He seems a lot better than the 8 mana Ugin, and lots better than the 4 mana Karns, none of which are very good. But what do you think? Is he more powerful than I'm giving him credit for? Can you really get him out on turn 5 without dying first? If you enjoy Oathbreaker, check out my channel and consider subscribing. I try to put out an Oathbreaker video every week. I think I've got like 200 of these videos pairing planeswalkers to signature spells. Frankly, I'm kind of running out of good ones, so I love it when a new planeswalker comes out that I can review. And honestly, most of the ones they've been printing have been really interesting and really good, so bravo Wizards, keep it up. I think that'll be it for the video. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you next time.